The name of the presentation is The Art of Developing Truly Global Leaders, and the subject that I chose was under the heading Globalism and Leadership. For this presentation, there are areas of content that I will share and discuss: article summary, global leadership, art and science, inadequacy of global leaders, inclusive leadership skills, mastering the art, directing and influencing difference. Next slide, article summary. As you can see from the bullet points, the title of this article is The Art of Developing Global Leadership. The article is retrieved from the Harvard Business Review and written by Beth Brooke. Now, Brooke discusses that global leadership is not only a science but an art to developing leadership to its full potential. Brooke's article discusses that while learning the science of leadership will keep emerging global firms growing, but only by mastering the art will they become giants. While it is obvious that global leadership requires to know how to align and leverage the efforts of employees around the world and build global cross cultural competence as a critical business skill, Brooke indicates that it takes humility to accept that someone else might have a better idea. The next slide is on global leadership. And here I just have images of leadership. And global leadership requires the confidence and management ability to build and execute talent. The idea of adaptive and affluent leadership is still a growing concept. Flex, the new playbook for managing across differences, is a book that I also reference. And it states that we are simply not taught how to relate to people from other backgrounds, and these skills of flexing are not adequately taught in the educational system, undergraduate programs, or even business schools. The rationale for this book written is to learn to acknowledge differences and learn to flex our management styles to those different from us. The next slide is titled Global Leadership. And here, the two bullet points are fluent leader and cultural fluency. Fluent leaders are able to effectively bridge distances between themselves and their colleagues and get the most out of each employee by adapting his own leadership style in order to meet team members part ways and help to bridge the distance between them. The chief executive officer or chief operating officer are not necessarily the most fluent leaders because they may not have the necessary artistic ability to pass it forward. Cultural, cultural fluency is the ability to make efforts to understand and appreciate other cultures. If you are fluent at Chinese, does that necessarily mean that you understand the whole culture and the implications of it? Cultural fluency means developing the ability to understand the cultural assumptions upon which behavior and thinking of the international employee rests. Just as important is the ability to understand countless subtle and not so subtle ways we are all influenced by our own culture. The next slide is titled Art and Science, and here the bullet points are belief, ability, and commonality. The art and science of leadership is adapting to accommodate the power gap. Practicing a belief system intrinsic to successful leadership is the ability to switch behaviors and styles in order to communicate more effectively with those who are different from you. One example would be sharing common interests, such as organizational goals, music, sports, etc. Commonality indicators are achieved by refraining from positioning your way as the only way to get things done. The next slide is titled Art and Science also. And here, Brooke indicates that art means having values, and habits that are hard to measure but are present in a successful organizational culture. Now, the healthy organization will implement processes that stimulate growth. The organization is committed to creating talent from within and outside the organization that is more valuable than its own. Each individual makes a contribution while pursuing a common mission for the organization. And the next slide is inadequacy of global leaders. And here you also see that I have bullet points. And I just wanted to just reflect on that today's companies are able to cultivate the tools and processes of world-class talent management. However, they reveal inadequacies in the more understated strengths. Because of this, they struggle with talent shortfalls. Global leaders experience problems that severely restrict the development of international expansion. And the biggest culprit here is the inability to manage a globally diverse team. Many senior leaders are becoming increasingly aware that management and their organization does not offer longevity experience for managing an assortment of employees. And this realization has resulted in many organizations experiencing high turnover, who are then forced to offer higher wages to support this kind of talent. The next slide is inclusive leadership skills. And here, the three bullets I am elaborating on is that most leaders in any global organization believe that they are inclusive and they practice diversity. They would say that their talented employees have differences, including background, gender, and age. However, research suggests that in practice, it takes time to conquer potential barriers to effective communication. It takes time to listen to people express ideas in unfamiliar accents or style, which is a quote by in the article from Beth Brooke. I personally feel that while belonging is important in many parts of the world, it isn't sufficient to engender a sense of inclusion. Global inclusive leadership has to balance both the need for uniqueness and for belonging. The next slide is titled Mastering the Art. And as you can see from the bullet points here, global leadership includes providing the processes as a science to keep emerging global firms growing, but only by mastering the art of it will they become expert. In the book titled Flex, uh, it also indicates the following: by customizing, individualizing your approach to the person and the situation. Global leaders show authenticity by revealing who they are and what they value and projecting that towards others. In order to decrease the power gap, which is miscommunication, global leaders offer team members a variety of responses for adaptability and fluency. These skills are included in the art of flexing and are important in mastering the art of global leadership. This next slide is titled Directing and Influencing Unlikeness. Now, here I also have three bullets that I'm going to elaborate on: establishing relationship building, building trust, connection with a vision. Directing and influencing unlikeness also means navigating the differences of a diverse culture. Establishing relationship building one-on-one with team members is important to building trust. Equally important is creating a connection with a shared vision for the company. These were areas that my previous senior leadership failed to acknowledge. They lack cultural fluency. Brazil, which is one of the countries that I would communicate with daily as a team member for necessary data and system implementation, reminded me why this article held a special interest for me. Because there were many instances of miscommunication between team members and senior management. Now, this management was intolerant of inadequate processes and work management time frames. During team meetings, the conversation usually centered around and suggests that, quote unquote, these employees were just inconsiderate and do not make timely attempts to accommodate requests. By using the phrase, quote unquote these employees, management seemed to suggest that foreign employees were more prone to making mistakes. I have come to understand that these types of experiences can be overcome by directing and influencing diversity when developing global leadership. And here is my references for this article. And thank you for viewing my presentation. And this is Elizabeth Ka.